Hello, and welcome back. Today I'm going to kind of talk about, what I did when I first started my photography journey, and what I thought would be the best way to improve myself. And with that, I'm going to say three things that I think are pretty important for everybody when they're starting off in photography. All right, let's go. All right, so the first thing I think is pretty important is getting down the fundamentals. So I started with my Canon Rebel, which I still have today, back in 2015. So this is a Canon Rebel T5, not T5i, but just T5. And when I was starting out, I was like, I want a DSLR, and I need a DSLR to get the type of images I want. But when I got my DSLR, I needed to do something with it. I need to learn how to use a camera. So to do that, I learned three things: aperture, shutter, ISO. And basically I'm talking about exposure theory and how that is important for just laying the foundation. The fundamentals of photography is getting that down. So when I first started my photography journey, I had no idea what it meant to properly expose the image, or like why that mattered. I would always hear that you can do whatever, you can overexpose or underexpose, but I think the importance is that of having a proper exposure is knowing that you have a rule and you can change that rule or break that rule later. But understanding that rule, understanding the fundamentals, allows you to know what you're doing for the future. So I actually found this pretty cool shot. Decided to take it. Not too much, a little abstract. I think it's cool though. I'm gonna put it on the screen. Let me know what you think. We're gonna get back to my three tips for getting started in photography. So why is it important to understand the fundamentals? In this case, for photography, exposure theory. Well, I think it's important because once you learn the rules, you can kind of understand why you are breaking those rules. And if you understand those rules, then you don't really understand why you're breaking them or how to break them in a very pleasing manner. And I think the ability to do that in the case of exposure theory definitely helped me out. Once I was able to learn how to change my aperture, once I was able to learn what shutter settings I needed, I believe I became a better photographer over time through understanding those fundamentals. And in my opinion, the best way to learn those fundamentals, manual mode. I think for the longest time I was actually pretty scared of manual mode, but I was actually always using aperture priority, which is nothing wrong with that. I think if you want to get a good image, aperture priority, shutter priority, program mode, they're all there to be used because they help you make good images. But if you really want to get the fullness out of your camera and truly get what you want, I think you want to go into manual mode and try things out. So if you could have a DSLR, if you have something like that, I would say get out of aperture priority, get out of shutter priority, get to manual mode and try those out. That's your squirrel right over there. I'm gonna switch this out from this one to my 78-300. He's actually looking at me right now, so I'm gonna try to do this quick. Hopefully I can put an image up. Yeah, we'll see. So the second tip is basically describing, like getting inspiration from other photographers and trying to, see what they do and understand, like, how can I take this, not take their work and, do their work, be a mimic of them, but take it and learn from it and, creating your own style. I think when I first started doing this, I looked at Ansel Adams. I'm from California, so like Yosemite is an amazing place, and looking at his work and how he captured those moments in time forever, and like how he had the exposure, how he like how the composition lined up. I try to find ways to emulate that and improve my own photography. And over the years, I've kept doing these type of things, looking at different photographers, honestly a lot of YouTubers now too. Like, I look at their work and how they do it, and like try to understand like why they did something, like what is the reason they did their why they exposed like that, why they photographed this subject. Like, these are different things I ask myself in terms of improving my craft. A couple of the YouTubers that I follow these days are Thomas Heaton is one. I love the landscape photography he does, and Melandis, when I first saw the work he did and how he made me feel that I could photograph anything, whatever is important to me, so I'm going to photograph, and I'm going to share with people around me. I felt like that was pretty powerful, especially the type of work he does and how he goes about his craft. And following those two guys, I felt was like, okay, they're going through their craft. They're finding subjects that's interesting to them and photographing that. I felt that was pretty cool. And each and every day, I try to go out, find subjects that I find inspirational, and photograph those and share those with you. So yeah, that'll be my second tip. Look at other photographers and see what they do, and try to understand why they did what they did. And when I say understand, I'm not saying go too in depth and like, oh my God, let me, look at every little pixel, or, see what it is, or see what camera. No, just like on a fundamental, again, back to fundamentals. On a fundamental level, like, why do they do what they do? And see if you can learn anything from that. I think it's pretty important. So the third and final tip, and I think you're going to get this from a lot of people, is practice. Practice on what you do. Be okay with making mistakes, practicing, as much as you can every day if you can. I remember when I first started doing photography, like, my first couple days out, I got the kit lens, 18 to 55. I don't know what I'm doing, but like, the idea was to go out there, practice, and try it, each and everything I can to improve myself. And I had to be okay with making mistakes. Mistakes happen, mistakes are just ways to learn to improve yourself and to find what your style is. So I think that's pretty important. Go out there, practice, make mistakes, do what you need to do. All right, guys, those are my 3 tips. Fundamentals, find inspiration through others, and remember to always practice. Like I said before, I have been photographing with my Canon Rebel for 5 years now. As much as I want to get the latest and greatest gear, I've come to appreciate working with my Rebel and understanding that it's not always about having the latest gear. It's about how you can use the gear you got to get the image that you want, and I think that's very important. So it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter if it's a Canon Rebel. It doesn't matter if it's the newest mirrorless camera. It doesn't matter if it's an iPhone. Whatever you're using, try to find a way to make it work. And I think that is the greatest thing about photography. Everything we can have to make something work. And with that, guys, we come to the end of the video. I hope this was informative. I hope you learned a little bit of something. And yeah, so until next time, remember to like, subscribe, and until next time, peace.
So, clear out the room, I'm coming through. They wanna see what I'm about. Yeah, I got skills, do it for the thrill. I'm on a paper route. Extra, read about it. I'm today's trying to top it.